In the heart of Lagos, Nigeria's fast-beating commercial hub, Amaka Williams lived like a queen. Raised in one of the city's most affluent families, her days were spent between luxury boutiques, elite brunches, and rooftop parties with fellow heirs and heiresses. Her father, Chief Williams, was a towering figure in the business world, a billionaire known as much for his wealth as for his sharp mind. Amaka had everything she could dream of except humility. She viewed life through the tinted windows of her sports car, never touching the ground her tires rolled over. But all that would soon be challenged in a way she never expected. When Chief Williams passed away suddenly, the mansion turned from a palace of laughter to a house of whispers. The day of the will reading arrived, and the family gathered in the opulent sitting room adorned with gold-plated furniture, marble floors, and massive oil portraits of the chief in regal poses. The mood was tense. Everyone expected Amaka to inherit everything. After all, she was the only child. But Chief Williams had always believed in teaching hard lessons, even from beyond the grave. The lawyer, an elderly man with thick glasses and a steady voice, unfolded the will slowly, aware that what he was about to read would spark outrage. "To my beloved daughter, Amaka Williams," he began, "I leave all my properties, companies, and investments on one condition. She must marry a man from our home village within 30 days. The room fell into stunned silence. Then came the gasps. Amaka sat frozen. Her perfectly manicured nails gripped the armrest tightly as the words sank in. Amaka exploded in rage once she returned to her bedroom. She hurled a crystal vase across the room and collapsed onto her designer bedspread. "How could he do this to me?" she screamed. "Marry a villager. This is 2025, not some village folk tale." But beneath her fury was a brewing resolve. She wasn't going to let her father's final wish rob her of the life she had built. If he wanted her to marry a village man, she'd find one, but on her terms. Days later, Amaka's white SUV kicked up dust as it drove through the winding roads of her father's ancestral village. Children ran barefoot alongside the car, laughing and waving. Women in colorful wrappers balanced baskets of produce on their heads. Amaka looked out with thinly veiled disdain. The village smelled of wood smoke and sun-dried earth, far from the sterile scent of her air-conditioned penthouse. In the heart of the village, where vendors sold roasted corn and kola nuts under mango trees, Amaka spotted him. Obinna, he was crouched beside a broken motorcycle, hands black with grease, yet his posture dignified and focused. He looked nothing like the wealthy men she knew, and perhaps that's why she chose him. He wasn't just poor, he was grounded. She approached him that evening, her assistant trailing behind with a suitcase. "I'll make this simple," she said. "I need a husband for 30 days. You'll get 10 million naira. Just sign the marriage certificate and disappear after." Obinna didn't even look up from his workbench. "I don't sell my name." "Not even for 10 million, he replied calmly. Amaka was stunned. For the first time in her life, someone had said no to her face, and meant it. Still, she didn't give up. She returned the next day, and the next. She brought food for his siblings, helped carry water, and even tried her hand at patching tires. The villagers watched in amusement as the pampered city girl stumbled through chores, but something strange began to happen. The more time she spent with Obinna and his people, the more she felt something shifting inside her. For once, her smiles weren't posed. One afternoon, barefoot and makeup smudged, Amaka found herself in the middle of a game with village children. She laughed so hard she fell backward onto the grass, arms outstretched. She hadn't laughed like that in years. Gone was the icy heiress. In her place was a woman learning to live, to breathe. Obinna, watching from a distance, noticed the change. The village's annual New Yam festival arrived, and Obinna invited her to attend. She wore a borrowed anchor gown and danced to the beat of native drums under torchlight. The air was thick with the smell of roasted goat and palm wine. As the moon rose, Amaka and Obinna found themselves dancing slowly in the middle of the crowd. For a moment, there was no inheritance, No deal, only two souls connecting beneath a sky full of stars. I came here to use you, she confessed that night, her voice trembling. But now I'm afraid to leave without you. Obina looked at her silently, his eyes deep and unreadable. Then stay, he whispered, not for the money, for love. On the 30th day, Amaka returned to Lagos. She stood by the mansion window, watching the city skyline she once ruled. The lawyer entered with the final inheritance documents. You fulfilled the condition, he said. The estate is yours. She didn't reach for the pen. The doors opened, and Obina walked in, not in dusty clothes, but in a tailored suit. The room went silent. He moved with quiet authority, confidence etched in his stride. Even the lawyer stood to greet him. Before you sign, Obina said calmly, they should know who I am. The lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Obina Okafor is not just a villager. He's the CEO of Oxen Tech, a silent investor in 3 Nigerian startups, and your father's former business rival, though they had mutual respect. Amaka stared at Obina, her hands trembling. Then, slowly, she tore the inheritance papers in half. I don't need it anymore, she said. I found something more valuable. In the mansion's garden, under a fading orange sky, they embraced. It was no longer about wealth or revenge. It was about rediscovering who they were and who they could be together. Weeks later, they stood hand in hand back in the village. The sun dipped below the hills, and laughter from children echoed around them. The world they had once judged now held their future. The city lights, the parties, the designer clothes, they all faded into memory. In their place, evening walks, family meals, and quiet joy. Amaka had left behind the world she thought she wanted, for the one her soul needed. Sometimes, what you think is a curse becomes the path to your blessing. And sometimes, love finds you in places you never thought to look, like the heart of a man who fixes bikes under mango trees.